Do you ever feel like you're losing the day before it's even begun? That your alarm clock isn't a gentle wake-up call, but a starting pistol for a frantic race you never actually signed up for? If that's you, if you feel that in your bones, then this is for you. We need to talk. This isn't going to be another video about 5 a.m. ice baths and crushing your goals before breakfast. I think we're all tired of that. So tired. This is about something deeper. It's about the quiet desperation that sets in when your first conscious thought of the day is, I'm already behind. It's a feeling I know well. I remember a time in my life, it wasn't even that long ago, where my mornings were pure chaos, an absolute storm of my own making. The alarm would shriek, not buzz, but shriek, and my hand would do this robotic zombie-like motion, not to turn it off, but to grab my phone from the nightstand. And there it was. Before my feet even touched the floor, before I'd even said good morning to my own soul, I was flooded. The world was already screaming at me. Emails from a demanding boss that had come in at 10 p.m. the night before. A headline about some new global crisis that filled my stomach with a low-grade, simmering anxiety. A perfectly curated photo from someone on social media living a life that made mine feel small, lacking. All of this before I'd even taken a single conscious breath. We have to understand what's happening in that moment. It's not just checking your phone, it's a neurological ambush. When you do that, you are hijacking your own brain. Your body, which is supposed to be gently waking up, instead gets a jolt of cortisol, the stress hormone. Your brain is immediately thrust into a fight or flight state. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, you have triggered a physiological state of emergency. And for what? An email that could have waited, a notification that added zero value to your life. We are paying for cheap digital information with our precious biological peace. And it's a terrible trade. I'd stumble out of bed, my mind already a battlefield of obligations, anxieties, and comparisons. I'd rush through a shower, my thoughts racing about the 10 things I was already late for. I'd spill coffee on my shirt while trying to answer a text message. I'd leave the house with this frantic, jagged energy, feeling defeated. The day hadn't even had a chance to be good. I had strangled it in its crib. I was living my life in a constant state of reaction. Reacting to the alarm, reacting to emails, reacting to the news, reacting to traffic, reacting to everyone else's demands, everyone else's emergencies. My life wasn't my own. I was just a pinball, getting knocked around by everything else. And it felt hopeless. It felt like this was just what adulthood was, a long, slow surrender to chaos. Maybe you know what that feels like, that feeling that you're just a passenger in your own life, that you're constantly putting out fires instead of building something beautiful. The fundamental problem, the lie that I was living, was that I believed the morning was just a frantic bridge to get to the important part of the day. Work, the obligations, the real life. I was so wrong. The morning isn't the bridge. The morning is the foundation. It is the single most important piece of your day because it's the only part you can reliably, fiercely protect as your own. It is the sacred ground where you decide the weather for your own mind. It's where you choose the lens through which you will see the next 16 hours. Changing my morning. It wasn't about becoming more productive. It was an act of rebellion. It was me, finally, after years of chaos, drawing a line in the sand and saying, this first part, this is mine. Lean in slightly, tone becomes more confessional. It didn't happen overnight. It was clumsy. It was awkward. My brain screamed for that hit of dopamine from my phone. The addiction to the chaos was real, but I started small, so small. The first promise I made to myself was simple. I will not touch my phone for the first 30 minutes of my day. That was it. That was the whole new routine. The first few days were torture. I'd wake up and my hand would still do that ghost motion towards the nightstand. I'd feel this pull, this itch. What was I missing? What fire did I need to put out? But I would force myself to just get up, go to the kitchen. And the second part of my new micro habit was to drink a full glass of water, just standing at the kitchen sink in the quiet pre-dawn light, drinking a glass of water. It felt ridiculous. How could this possibly change anything? How could this fix the anxiety, the pressure, the feeling of being so behind on life? But then, a funny thing happened. Around day 4 or 5, something shifted. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It started to feel peaceful. It was like my brain, which was used to starting at a full sprint, was confused by the quiet. And in that confusion, it started to calm down. I was just standing there, listening to the house hum, watching the sky slowly turn from black to a deep, bruised purple. And for the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts, not the frantic, panicked thoughts, but the deeper ones, the quiet ones, the ones that get drowned out by the noise. I feel really tired today. I'm worried about that meeting. I miss my friend. They weren't profound, but they were mine. I was having a conversation with myself, a quiet check-in. And that simple act of listening to myself, it was revolutionary. It was the beginning of everything. That 30 minutes of no phone and 1 glass of water became my sanctuary. It was the runway for my day. And slowly, I started to add things to it. Not because a guru told me to, but because it felt right. I bought a cheap notebook. And after my glass of water, I would sit for 5 minutes and just write. Whatever was in my head, a stream of consciousness, worries, ideas, snippets of dreams. Most of it was garbage. It didn't matter. The act of pulling the thoughts out of my head and putting them on paper, it domesticated them. It took the fangs out of the anxiety. I could see my worries on the page, and they suddenly looked smaller, manageable. This wasn't about journaling for success. This was an act of mental hygiene. It was like sweeping the floor of my mind each morning. And then I started to move my body, not a grueling, hour-long workout. Some days it was just stretching on the living room floor for 10 minutes, just feeling my muscles wake up, feeling the blood start to move, shaking off the stiffness of sleep. It was another way of saying to my body, good morning, I'm here. We're in this together. Water, writing, moving, that was it. That was my miracle morning. No ice baths, no kale smoothies, no reading a book a day, just 20 to 30 minutes of quiet, deliberate, intentional peace, and it changed my entire life. But I need to be honest with you, it wasn't a straight line. Progress never is. There was a period, maybe 6 months into this new life, where everything fell apart. I was under immense pressure at work, a huge project with an impossible deadline. I started staying up later, fueled by caffeine and stress. And the first thing to go, my morning sanctuary, I started telling myself a familiar lie. I need the extra sleep more. So I'd hit snooze, then I'd tell myself, I don't have time for this, I just need to get to my email. And just like that, I was back in the chaos, waking up with my heart pounding, grabbing my phone, starting the frantic race all over again. For about 3 weeks, I was miserable. All that old anxiety came flooding back in. I was irritable. I was making sloppy mistakes at work. I felt that old familiar feeling of being a pinball, knocked around by the day. I felt like a failure, a fraud. Here I was, this person who had discovered this secret, and I couldn't even stick with it. One morning, after a particularly bad night of stress-induced insomnia, I woke up before my alarm. It was 5 a.m. The house was dark and silent. And I just lay there, my stomach in knots. I felt so lost. And then I remembered the very first step, the laughably small one. Just get up, go to the kitchen, drink a glass of water. It felt like moving a mountain, but I did it. I peeled myself out of bed and went to the sink. And as I stood there, drinking that water in the dark, I didn't feel a magical transformation. I just felt a little bit of relief. It was a truce in the war I was fighting against myself. I didn't do the writing, I didn't do the stretching, I just had the water, and I didn't grab my phone. The next day, I did the same, water, no phone. And the day after, I managed the water, and I wrote for 2 minutes, just 2. It took me another 2 weeks to fully reclaim my routine, but that experience taught me the most important lesson of all. This is not about perfection. It is about compassion. It is about persistence. It's about being willing to begin again and again and again. Your morning routine will break, life will happen, you will get sick, you will go on vacation, you will have a crisis. The goal isn't to never fall off. The goal is to make the act of getting back on so simple, so gentle, that it's always within reach. Your anchor is there to pull you back, because what you're creating isn't just a to-do list. You're building a relationship with yourself, and relationships aren't perfect. They require forgiveness. They require showing up even after you've let them down. And this applies to everyone, no matter what your life looks like. I have a friend, let's call her Sarah. She's a single mom to 2 young kids. When I first started talking to her about this, she laughed, a real tired laugh. She said, "My morning routine is being woken up by a small human screaming, 'I'm hungry,' at 6:15. Your quiet sanctuary sounds like a fantasy novel." And I got it. I truly did. Her world doesn't allow for an hour of quiet reflection. So I asked her, what is the absolute first thing you could possibly do that is just for you? We talked it through. Her kids usually woke up between 6:15 and 6:30. She was setting her alarm for 6:15. She was waking up to the chaos. So we came up with a new plan, a tiny, almost laughably small adjustment. She set her alarm for 6:05, just 10 minutes earlier, and in those 10 minutes, her only job was to get out of bed, go to the bathroom, and before she did anything else, put her hand on her heart, take 3 deep, slow breaths, and ask herself one question: what do I need today? That was it. 3 breaths, 1 question. She told me the first week her answer was always the same: I need more sleep. But then something changed. One morning, the answer was, I need to be patient with the kids today. The next day it was, I need to remember to drink water. One day it was, I need 5 minutes of sunshine on my face. That tiny little habit, that 10-minute head start, didn't magically give her more time. It didn't make her kids less demanding, but it changed her. She was starting her day by connecting with herself. She told me about one afternoon, her son had a total meltdown in the grocery store. The classic, on the floor, kicking and screaming meltdown. She said normally her skin would get hot. She'd feel that rush of shame and anger. She'd hiss at him through clenched teeth. But this time was different, because she had started her day with the intention of patience. The word was like an echo in the back of her mind. In the tiny gap between his scream and her reaction, she heard it: patience. And so instead of yelling, she just sat down on the floor with him, right there in the cereal aisle. She didn't say anything. She just sat there until he was done. She said it was the most powerful thing she had ever done as a parent. That calm response, it was born at 6:05 a.m. that morning. It was the ripple effect of 3 deep breaths. Then there's my other friend, Mark, a brilliant guy, an aspiring writer. He works a draining 9-to-5 job to pay the bills, and he tries to write his novel in the evenings. Or he told himself he did. When I talked to him, he was so dejected. By the time I get home, he said, my brain is just fried. I've given my best energy, my best focus to my day job. And my dream gets the dregs, the leftovers. He would sit in front of the blank page, full of frustration, and just feel empty. He felt like his dream was slipping through his fingers, one exhausted evening at a time. His problem wasn't a lack of talent, it was an energy management problem. He was giving his most precious resource, his creative, focused energy, to someone else's priorities. So we came up with a new plan for him. His anchor had to be different. His goal was to protect his creative energy. He started waking up 45 minutes earlier. That sounds like a lot, but he did it by going to bed 45 minutes earlier. He created a new rule: no screens after 10 p.m. He bought an old school alarm clock so the phone wouldn't be in the bedroom. And in that morning, quiet, before the day job could sink its teeth into him, he would make a cup of coffee, sit down at his desk, and he would write for 30 minutes, just 30 minutes. He told me the first week was brutal. The words came out like sludge. He wrote maybe a paragraph a day. He felt like an imposter, but he kept showing up because the promise wasn't to write a masterpiece. The promise was just to sit in the chair for 30 minutes. Around week 3, he said something unlocked. His brain started to understand, oh, this is what we do now. This is a safe time. This time is for us. The words started to flow. The story began to breathe. He told me, I've written more in the last 3 months in those 30-minute morning sessions than I did in the previous 2 years of trying to write at night. Why? Because he was giving his dream the best of him, not the rest of him. He was paying himself first with his time and his energy. That simple shift in his morning habit is the reason his novel is going to get finished. So, you see, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. For Sarah, it was about finding emotional regulation. For Mark, it was about protecting creative energy. For me, it was about escaping the cycle of anxiety. The question you need to ask is, what do you want to protect? What do you want to cultivate in your life? Your anchor should serve that. This is not about having a perfect Instagram-worthy morning routine. Life is messy. Kids get sick. Alarms don't go off. This is about creating an anchor. But what if the quiet is loud? What if you sit down and instead of peace, a tidal wave of anxiety washes over you? That's a real fear. Many of us use the chaos, the phone, the constant motion as a way to outrun our own minds. When you finally stop, it can all catch up. If that's you, start even smaller. Don't start with 20 minutes of silent meditation. That's like trying to run a marathon without training. Start with 1 minute. Sit down and just focus on the physical sensation of your breath, in and out. When the anxious thoughts come, and they will, don't fight them. Just gently notice them, like clouds passing in the sky, and guide your attention back to your breath. The goal isn't to have no thoughts. The goal is to notice that you are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. That small distance is where your power lies. That is the beginning of peace. And remember that your morning routine really begins the night before. You're making a contract with your future self. Make it easy for that groggy, tired morning version of you to say yes. Put a glass of water on your nightstand before you go to sleep. If you want to journal, leave the notebook and a pen on your kitchen table. If you want to stretch, lay your yoga mat out. If you want to read, put the book on your pillow. These aren't just chores. These are signals of intent. You are sending a message to your subconscious mind. Tomorrow we're doing something different. Tomorrow we're choosing ourselves. You are reducing the friction, removing the excuses, and making the path to your anchor as smooth as possible. Because here's the truth, your discipline, your motivation, your ability to overcome procrastination, it doesn't magically appear at 11 a.m. when you're staring at a project you don't want to do. It's born in the quiet of the morning. It's built in the small promises you keep to yourself. When you prove to yourself first thing in the morning that you can do the thing you said you would do, even if it's just drinking a glass of water, you are building self-trust. And self-trust is the currency of a successful life. It's the belief that you are someone who follows through. That belief is forged in these tiny, seemingly insignificant morning habits. It's how you build momentum. A small win first thing in the morning makes the next win easier, and the next one after that. You are not fighting the day with an empty tank. You are starting with a little bit of fuel, your own fuel. Now, some of you might be thinking, this all sounds nice, but I am just not a morning person. I want to challenge that idea. What if not being a morning person is less about biology and more about how you've been starting your mornings? If your morning is a frantic, stressful race against the clock, of course you hate it. Who would love that? This isn't about becoming someone who leaps out of bed at dawn singing. This is about being a person who is kind to themselves for 10 minutes upon waking. You don't have to be a morning person to do that. You just have to be a person who wants to feel better. Let's reframe it. This isn't about the morning. This is about your opening ceremony for the day. And You get to decide what that looks like. So let's make this real for you. Right now, forget the gurus, forget the complicated systems. Let's find your anchor. What is the one thing, the one tiny, simple thing you can do tomorrow morning that is just for you? I want you to really think about it. Maybe it's my thing. No phone and a glass of water. Maybe it's my friend Sarah's thing. 3 deep breaths and 1 question. Maybe it's Mark's thing. 30 minutes for your most important project. Maybe it's putting on 1 song you love and just listening to it all the way through without doing anything else. Maybe it's stepping outside for 2 minutes, no matter the weather, and just looking at the sky. Maybe it's 5 minutes of reading a book that has nothing to do with work or self-improvement, just for pleasure. Maybe it's just sitting up in your bed and not doing anything at all for 3 minutes. Just being. Whatever it is, it has to feel like a gift, not a punishment. It should be an act of kindness to your future self. I invite you really to try it, just for 1 week. Don't worry about forever. Don't worry about being perfect. Just make a gentle commitment to yourself for 7 days. And when you find your one thing, I'd love for you to share it in the comments below. Not for me, but for you. Writing it down makes it real. And reading what other people are doing, it reminds us we're not alone in this. We're all just trying to find our way back to a little bit of peace. See what happens. Notice how you feel. Notice if the chaos in your mind feels just a little bit quieter. Notice if you feel a little less reactive to the demands of the world. Notice if you start to feel a little more like yourself, because that's what this is all about. It's not about changing your morning. It's about using your morning to change the story of your life. It's about taking back the pen. It's about writing the first sentence of each day yourself instead of letting the world write it for you. You are worth that effort. Your peace is worth that effort. Your dreams are worth that effort. Stop waking up just to survive the day. Start waking up to deliberately, intentionally, and beautifully live your life. It all starts tomorrow morning. In the quiet, it starts with you.